It's Thursday, December 11th, and here's everything you may have missed in business and finance yesterday. Yesterday was a big day. At 2 p.m. Eastern, the country breathed a collective sigh of relief as it was announced that the Fed cut rates by a quarter point as expected. The vote was 9-3, which means that 3 Fed officials disagreed. 2 of them wanted to hold rates steady because they're worried about inflation. 1 actually wanted a bigger cut, a half point, because he's worried about the job market. We also got the dot plot where Fed officials project future rate cuts. They're now only expecting 1 cut in 2026 and 1 more in 2027. However, the futures markets are still pricing in 2 cuts for next year, so traders think that the Fed will have to cut more than they are currently anticipating. At 2:30 yesterday, Powell did his press conference, and this is where markets really started to take off. He said, "I don't believe a rate hike is anybody's base case at this point," basically helping to assure the markets that a hike is not even currently in contention. He also discussed how the Fed is still flying blind a bit because the government shutdown delayed critical economic data, so they're going to have to be very cautious about making big moves and parse through the plethora of incoming data over the next month very carefully. After very little movement ahead of the meeting, stocks popped immediately when Powell gave the all clear. The S&P surged 67 basis points and is now just barely below its all-time high. The Dow jumped over 1%, and small cap stocks, the Russell 2000, climbed 1.32% to hit its second consecutive record close. Tech extended its winning streak to 13 days in a row now. Treasury yields fell after Powell spoke, the 10-year dropping 5 basis points to 4.13. Bitcoin jumped above $94,000 right after the decision, but then fell back to above $92,000 by the end of the day. One other item to note from the Fed releases and press conference, the Fed announced they'll begin buying Treasury bills this Friday to ease strains in short-term funding markets. They're going to start with buying about $40 billion initially, and this helped boost overall market sentiment because it's technically expanding the Fed's balance sheet again. In other out-of-this-world news, startup StarCloud just trained a chatbot using a GPU orbiting Earth in space. They launched a satellite with an NVIDIA H100 chip last month and successfully trained an AI model in orbit. This could be huge as space-based data centers would have unlimited solar power, no cooling costs, and 0 carbon emissions. It's mostly theoretical for now because building a full data center in space is logistically very challenging, but this proves that the concept could actually work. Other corporate highlights from yesterday, Warby Parker jumped another 27% yesterday, extending its rally from the Google AI Glasses partnership. Nextdoor popped 26% after a big investor took a bullish position. Micron climbed 4.5% as analysts raised forecasts on rising chip prices. GameStop fell 4.3% even though their cash pile nearly doubled to $8.8 billion. Sales are still slumping and their Bitcoin value has declined. Today we're getting jobless claims and the producer price index. For earnings, we've got some big names, Broadcom, Costco, Lululemon, all report after the bell.